So I'm doing a video now for Friday. We're gonna get blessings at the end of it. Say yay. But I did say yay. Okay. So this is continuing Moreh nevuchim, which is Guide to the Perplexed by Rambam, who is Maimonides. And we're gonna continue with words, terms. So Tamuna. So now we're continuing with how to define these terms. We talked about in the last video likeness, shape, figure, form, and how when we say we're made in God's image, it doesn't mean any of those. It means in our perception, like the fact that we're in God's image. The image is, in Hebrew, the word for image, tselem, actually means like an edge, like a shadow. We're going to go into it today. Well, we're not going to go into it exactly that. We're going to go into this topic that, like the word for image, like the word for form, the word for figure. We're going through all those words to show that none of them match the idea that we're made in God's image. It's in English we say image, but here we're going through all the words image, like for figure, like in the last video, in this video, and so tselem actually means in like the likeness of being able to in the perception. And then we're going to talk about what does perception mean here, right? So in the perception of the image, like the image that could be perceived. So now let's continue. The word tavnit, which is bana, built, is the construction, the pattern of something, like its shape. And therefore it's never used for speaking about Hashem's quality. However, tamuna, which means image as well, like all the previous words, I'll read them through. We did demut, we did tselem, we did toar. So tselem, we're made in God's tselem. And it's like people usually translate it as image. That's why we're going through this. If it's figure, shape, and what we learned was that it's really like this perception that cannot be compared, which is like an intellectual, divine perception. So tamuna, now we're going to go into, has three ways that it's used. One is the outlines that are perceived by bodily senses. So look at a tree, and I see its edges, the outlines of even all the lines on the tree, or you could see behind me there's some tree, you see the lines, the edges, right? The edges of there, we see the picture, right? Then we have the forms of our imagination, impressions retained in imagination when the objects have ceased to affect our senses. So let's say the sense organ is not looking at it. So I close my eyes, and let's say I still see that outline a little. Or I still see the image of like tree and cloud, right? And then 3, the true form of an object, which is perceived only by the intellect. This third signification can be applied to God. So it's like the true form of an object, which is perceived only by the intellect, would say like the essence of tree. The root, the root of tree in the tree, or some might say, let's say I had a teacher once say like the root of pizza in the pizza. The quality of pizza-ness, so the quality of tree-ness, which cannot be seen with the eyes, it's the quality of a tree. So like a husband, you could see a man who's a husband, but then there's the version of husband which you can't see. It's what you see in your own perception, right? Okay, then chapter 4. So that was chapter 3. Chapter 4, the 3 verbs for seeing or perceiving, right? Because now we're talking about perception. They're seeing, looking, viewing, whatever. So it's re'eh, and they can be seen as figuratively or literally. So perceiving with the eye, and it could be like the inner eye or the outer eye. So the first re'eh could be this ocular sort of eye, or the intellectual perception. When applied to Hashem, it's figurative, obviously, because the eye can only perceive a corporeal object, and in connection with a certain incidental color or shape that it comes out to be. You could see it, regardless of the fact that you can't see, not regardless, but like regardless of the fact that what you're seeing is through your actual eye or through figurative. It's this idea, it's this perception that could be either literal or figurative, that we can say could only apply to Hashem when it's figurative, because Hashem is not corporeal. The word habit, which means figurative, not only literally, to observe, contemplate something till it's understood, and chazeh, which denotes to view with the eye, and also it's used figuratively to mean to perceive mentally. So in all these ways, it's saying, even if the words that we use to perceive like an image, we're saying that could be used mentally or imaginatively or non-corporeally. Chapter 5, Aristotle was inquiring in the profound subjects and establishing his theory and his proofs, and he began by saying in advance in his treatise that the reader is and he was considered the chief of the philosophers. He says the reader is requested to attribute Aristotle's inquiries to his zeal and desire to discover and establish the true doctrines as far as lay and human power, and not attribute his inquiries to presumption, vanity, egotism, arrogance, as though he were dealing with things of which he had no knowledge. We take the same position when someone commences to speculate. He ought not to embark on such a vast, important subject at once, but he should previously adapt himself to several branches of science, study and knowledge, and thoroughly refine his moral character and subdue his passions and desires, the offspring of his imagination. Once he obtained knowledge of the true fundamental propositions, a comprehension of the several methods of inference and proof, and the capacity to guard against fallacies, then he may approach the investigation of his subject. He must, however, not decide any question by the first idea that comes to mind or at once, direct his thoughts and force them to obtain a knowledge of the Creator, but must wait modestly and patiently and advance step by step. In Shemos, Exodus 3:6, it says, Moshe hid his face because he was afraid to look upon God. In the Talmud bavli, in brachos 7:1, it says he was afraid to gaze at the light which appeared to his eye, but when it says he was afraid to look upon God, it means he was afraid to look at the light which appeared to his eye. But on no account should this be assumed that the being which is exalted far above every imperfection could be perceived by the eye. And this pleased Hashem, says the Talmud, and his reward was to actually behold Hashem's similitude, or his likeness, or his something that could be considered like his shape, his form, like everything we've been discussing till now, something like that, because it says, and the similitude of the Lord shall he behold, in bamidbar Numbers 12:8. So that's let's use the words now. Timunas. So we use the word timuna, right? Picture or image. Hashem yabit, he saw. Behold it. However, there was the nobles of the Bnei Yisrael, not all the Bnei Yisrael, there was some nobles or princes, or sometimes we could call them elders. And so they had a perception which is criticized or blamed of Hashem that was corporeal. They ventured too far before perfectly preparing and deserved to die, although Moshe intercessed and their fate was averted for some time. As it says in Shemos, Exodus 24:10, they saw the Lord of God and there was under his feet. And there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone. And then 24:11, also they saw God and did eat and drink. So how much more so we, who are inferior to those and those below us, it is incumbent to persevere in perfecting our knowledge of the elements and in rightly understanding the preliminaries which purify the mind from the defilement of error. And then we may enter the holy and divine camp in order to gaze, like it says in Shemos 19:22, Exodus, and let the priests also which come near to the Lord sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. Saying it applies to us. And in Koheles, Ecclesiastes 4:17, keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of the Lord. Besides, for erring in perception, the nobles of the children of Israel were misled in actions when they gave way to their bodily cravings, the food and the drink, right? So any of the three seeing verbs which we mentioned, has to do with intellectual perception, re'eh, habit, chazeh, and not the eyes when we're talking about, not the eyesight sensation when we're talking about when it has to do with Hashem, because God is not a being to be perceived by the eye. But for those whose comprehension is less, it's saying it's okay for them to take it as seeing sensually. Like they could say it applies to literally perceiving light, angels, similar beings. And now let us do our blessings. May we have a beautiful Shabbos, a good Shabbos. May we have a Shabbos of peace, happiness, love, feeling like Hashem is giving us a kiss on the forehead. May we have accountability, responsibility, and boundaries. That's maturity. May we have no anxiety or avoidance. May we find solutions and learn the lessons. And learn the lessons without taking it personally, like who it comes from. May we have words of affirmation and appreciation and warm feeling, soft, open hearts and positive energy. And may we choose life and light and life and goodness. And, love and goodness and oneness, and we should never take love for granted. And if we did, we should do a full tshuva and tikkun, and because love is the most precious in the world. We should not fear any emotions. We should have resourcefulness and acknowledge and validate each other and find everyone endearing. We should have sweet, fulfilling, nourishing love and give and receive insight. Two heads are better than one. We should express our emotions in freedom and flow and accept limits and mistakes and have capacity to change and have fun and be playful and sing and be active and dance. All of these things grow our neurons and create new ones. We should have holy affection. Like I mentioned, feel like Hashem is kissing us on our forehead or touching us nose to nose. We should have pleasing surprises and the oral Torah transmission, adapting, pivoting, channeling the Ein Sof. And doing full-fledgedness and full-fledgedness doing in our doing being, enjoying, experiencing like it could be the last. Or like I think for the year, sometimes I think like this is gonna last for the year. This is the last day of this day of the year, till the next cycle comes around. And maybe we have alignment in our pace. Pace is slowing down, speeding up as needed, and not resist experience or our work. And I don't really mean experience, I mean sensation. Sensation or reality or our work. And may we rise above our mazel. May we be grateful and humbly alive, secure, safe, and honor all the past permutations of the self. And may we have devotion to the Lord. May we make space, and may we have new chances, iterations, and versions. Have a good Shabbos.